and establish the difference among the terms ODC, heavy lift, and project cargo. Let us start with the very first term in ODC, heavy lift and project cargo, that is ODC. I would like to share a diagram that will help us to for a better understanding. Yes, just one moment. I want second page, please. This is the first page. We want, yeah, this is the page. Yeah, just one moment. Actually, just a little up, please. Little up. Yeah. So over ODC stands for over-dimensional cargo. Now, when we use the word over-dimensional cargo, so first thing that comes into our mind, what is dimension? And when dimension becomes over-dimensional. So we take any of the objects like our laptop, mobile, paperweight. Every object has got a certain length, width, and height. These length, width, and height constitute dimension of a cargo. And when the dimension of the cargo is such that of any particular object that it exceeds the dimension given of a particular frame of reference, we say that it's an ODC cargo. Of course, ODC cargo with reference to the given frame of reference. To make it, we understand it, to make it more easy, I just refer to the picture that is there for the reference. Here we see there is a box. This is a 20-feet container, say this is a box. So let us think of that this is a frame of reference. We need to stuff a cargo in this particular box. So what are the situations under which we are unable to stuff the cargo into the box? The nature of cargo, the dimension of cargo is such that either the length of the cargo is more than the length of this box, or the width of the cargo is more than the width of the box, or the height. Any two or all the three of the given cargo is such that the cargo is obstructed by the length, width, height of the box. In that case, we are unable to stuff the cargo into the particular box. So we say that the cargo is ODC, over-dimensional cargo with respect to the given frame of reference, and the given frame of reference here is the box. If the length of the box, say 20 feet, and the cargo length is 22 feet, of course, it's an ODC cargo with reference to this box that is 20 feet in length. So what are the situations under which the cargo becomes over-dimensional? We have dimensions length, width, and height. If any of them of the cargo, if any of the dimensions of the cargo exceeds the given dimensions of any of the given dimensions of this box, we say the cargo is ODC. Now let us think of a situation that the cargo is such that the nature of cargo is such that we can accommodate this cargo in this particular box. So we say the cargo is in gauge with respect to the box. Let us think of a situation under what situations the cargo is in gauge. Still, we are not planning the cargo in this particular box. As we find that this box is hanging with a sling, so the box this has the base of the box has certain loadability. If we load more cargo than the maximum loadability of the base, it will come down. So at times, even when the cargo is in gauge, it is not over-dimensional cargo. Still, we are unable to stuff that cargo in this particular box because the cargo with respect to this box is overweight cargo. So coming to the conclusion that coming to the conclusion that every box has got two kinds of gauge. One gauge is gauge is the dimension and the other is the maximum loadability. If the nature of cargo is such that it is over-dimensional with respect of the dimensions, either the length or the width or the height or any two or three, we say the cargo is over-dimensional. Similarly, if the weight of the cargo is overweight to the maximum loadability of the container, we say that cargo is overweight, and that is the reason we cannot stop that cargo in the container. In our, in our project logistics or shipping, these are the words generally in, ODC, ODC, OL, OW, OH, OOG, OW. These are the words which are very generally referred, and all of us are generally confused that what does this mean exactly. We should write ODC or we should write OW. We should write OL or we should write OH. So I try to explain and I try to end this confusion once and forever here itself. This ODC stands for over-dimensional cargo, as I explained. If the cargo is over-dimensional by virtue of the length of the cargo is more than the length of the box, then we say it is OL. It is over-length cargo. Similarly, it becomes over-width cargo and it becomes over-height cargo. You will find there is one that is O small w and the other one is O big W, capital W. Both have got different meaning. When we write capital W, it means it represents weight. Generally, all the measurements which are of a scalar nature, we write by a small letter, and whichever is of vector nature in physics, we say that we need to write it in capital letter. So weight is vector, that is why we write in capital letter, and others are scalars. So that is why we write in a small letter. So whenever we are using these terms, we have to be particular that how to write it correctly. So coming to now I just made this table for a clear understanding that out of gauge, there are two kinds of out of gauge. Under two situations, the cargo becomes out of gauge with respect to the given container. One is when it is overweight and other one is when it is ODC. ODC, in case of ODC, it is either over length or over width or over height or any of the two or all the three with respect to the given box. So this is what we have, now we move to the next. Some more scrolling, please. Towards up. Yeah, thank you. Here, no, little down, please. Little down. Scroll down, please. Yeah, no. Just scrolling up. Let it be. Now, like in the when I was representing in the previous picture, the length of that container was 20 feet long, and if the cargo length was 22 feet, I told that this cargo is over-dimensional with respect to the given box, which has got the length of 20 feet. In our shipping, do we say 22 feet cargo as over-dimensional cargo? No, we do not say. Why we do not say? Because we have certain boxes which are very easily available. These boxes, we say these are the general boxes or heavy duty boxes, like I mentioned, 20 feet GP box, 20 feet heavy duty box, 40 foot GP box, 40 foot heavy duty box, 45 feet GP box if available, and 45 foot high Q boxes. These are the boxes generally available in the trade, and if the nature of cargo is such that we can ship out the cargo in any of these boxes, we say the cargo is engaged and we plan accordingly. the nature of cargo is such that the dimension of cargo is such that we are unable to stuff the cargo in these boxes. Which are the situations in which this can happen? Either the cargo is over height or over width or over length or any two or all the three. In that case, we are unable to stuff the cargo in a normal box. Now, question arises that if, and that we say that is the ODC cargo, over-dimensional cargo. Question arises, if the cargo is over-dimensional, then what next to do? So we have certain containers that we say special containers or special equipment or special inventory. These are available. These are available in our trade, and normally the special containers which are available are open top, flat rack, and flatbed containers. So I just give you the picture. Just can we scroll up a little bit? Just little bit. No, scrolling up, please. Up. Yeah, thank you. So these are the special containers which are available. These are not as easily available as the normal boxes, but on demand we can get it, or we can even at the hinterland locations we can repo it from the CBF port. Why we are so much obsessed? Why we are so much obsessed for the special container? What is the special interest that we want to? We always will look forward to do the shipping of consignment ODC cargo into a special container. See, our interest or the interest factor is not into the special container. These special containers are built in such a fashion that they basically facilitate handling of the cargo which are of ODC in nature. They facilitate handling of the cargo at the terminal like a container, containerized. So we can facilitate the cargo very easily at the container terminal. We can load it on board the ship. We can do the stacking on board the ship. And also at the time of discharge, there is no issues at all. What happens that now another question arises that why we look forward always to ship out the cargo containerized on a container ship. When the cargo is break bulk, simply we should move the cargo as break bulk. No, our intention is always to containerize the cargo and to ship it out on a container ship, because container, while we containerize this ODC cargo, we have benefits. Very first, that it is very economical in comparison to the break bulk cargo. Can we come down a little bit, please? Prior to I come to that, I just say that if the cargo is over height, then then we have the open top container. If the cargo is over width, then of course we have the flat rack container where the top wall and side walls are not there, so it makes the cargo competent to be loaded as over width. For over width cargo, in case the cargo is over length, then the flat rack container has got the collapsible walls that can be collapsed, and it can make the flatbed, or we have the flatbed containers. We can ship out the over length cargo into the flatbed container. While we are doing such practices, just next page, please, down. When we do this, basically special containers, we look for special containers because these facilitate to load the out of gauge cargo on board a container ship. Cargo so containerized can be handled at any container terminal for loading, stacking on board the ship and discharge from the container ship very easily. We have certain benefits when we are able to containerize the cargo. We have scheduled services, weekly, twice weekly ship and connections via container terminals available worldwide. We have hassle-free transshipment handling. Shipments may be planned for that reason on a direct mothership or via one or multiple transshipment. Cargo moves fast, time-bound cargo is preferred. Generally, when we are doing when we ship out ODC cargo in special containers, it is very cost effective in comparison to the breakable cargo. So our interest factor is not putting the ODC cargo into the special container. Our interest factor lies that somehow the cargo which is ODC, somehow we can make it fit, containerized and load it onto a container ship, because benefits are available while we are doing with the container ship. Again, we have limitations also. As we see that when the cargo is very huge or bulky, the stability of the cargo during transportation is not there, either road transportation or sea transportation. At the same time, the container is having the base, they have the certain loadability. If the weight of the cargo is such that it is overweight with respect to the container, then it is not advisable to ship it. We cannot ship it out. So two major restrictions are there for very huge cargo, bulky cargo, and overweight cargo. This cargo we cannot containerize, so we have to ship it out on a breakable ship. Again, at times, certain terminals have got their own limitations. Like some of the terminals, they accept with the tare weight 40 ton, some of them 35 ton, even some they accept 45 tons. So the limitations imposed by the terminal is also one of the factors which allows, one of the factors where breakable becomes a compulsion. At times, not usually, at times we find that the breakable, very rare, but there is that the breakable freight rate is less than the containerized rate. In that case also we prefer to ship out by the breakable. So now we conclude that, what are the preferential plan of shipping? Our first preference is always to plan in normal container on a container carrier. Our second preference is planning in a special container on container carrier, and then comes planning as the breakable cargo on a breakable ship. There are certain exceptions, and these exceptions are mainly considered for the cost effectivity. These days, we find that even container carriers are loading the cargo onto breakable cargo onto the container ship. So vice versa, it becomes only for the sake of the saving of for the cost effectivity and saving price. Can we come down, please? Scroll down, please. Yes, next page. Here I have got a diagram. This diagram, basically we will focus on the base of the container. The base of the container is, these are the beams. There are the main beams, and there are across the main beams, which we say the cross member. Basically, every container has got the maximum loadability capability. But if we say the maximum cargo loadability is 30 ton and the length of the container is, it is 20-foot container, so approx 6 meter is the length of the container. Basically, throughout the area of the container, the weight has to be distributed equally. Otherwise, if the weight distribution is not proper, the cargo, especially for the heavily concentrated cargo, which has got a very less length, width and height, but at the same time, the weight is say 15 ton or 20 ton. In that case, the weight is not equally distributed and the base of the container may come out. So these are the cross members we have to we have to do the stuffing along the, lengthwise so that the maximum weight to be distributed. Why, in order to, purpose when storage and securing of cargo, it is the equal distribution of weight. What is the purpose? It is the equal distribution of weight. Then the torque should be, along the central line of the container, the torque should be equal both the ends, so that when the container is lifted, it should, when the container is lifted, it should be lifted in a very balanced way. So securing and the stability check where throughout the movement, transportation of the cargo, the stability remains the same. The stability remains all right. Why I am, why I am giving this diagram? Let us I try to, give one of the examples that that will help us to understand what is the importance of distribution of the cargo weight. We had a lot of 12 20-foot containers, and we were moving it from with a shipping line. These all containers were LC and all to be loaded on one ship because partial shipment was not allowed. When the container arrived port, customs cleared, delivered to the port, everything was perfectly all right. Just one day before the berthing of the ship, we received a call from the shipping line. We got a relay message from the shipping line that out of the 12, one container they would not load. So it was a problem, because it was partial shipment was not allowed. So we just asked the reason, like anybody would ask, what is the reason? The shipping line has no reason. Shipping line just explained that they have received message from their principal office that load only 11 container and one container you do not load. Just hold on. So we insisted for the reason. Instead of the reason, we got another message from the line. Their principals told, open the container, take the cargo out, lift the cargo onto the crane, take 6 to 12 of the photos and send these photos to the principal office. So it is very easy for the line to tell that you open the container, take the cargo out, then take the pictures and all. But we know how difficult the operation is, especially when we have only one day time to execute this. But when the shipping line guy, he informed this, we could assume, we could just find out that what exactly the principal might be meaning for that. So we just had the, we just tried to find out what exactly is the cargo. So these were all machines, and in this particular package, there was only one machine, and that was of 50-ton weight. So we got that might be some distribution. The principal might be trying to find out what is the weight distribution along throughout the length of the container. We inquired the shipper, we get the diagram, then especially the base part, and we found that the weight distribution was throughout such that it was, 2.2 ton per meter length, very much within the limitations imposed by the shipping line. So we took the diagram and we picture a structural drawing, all these, and made a representation and sent it to the shipping line. Now the guy there at the sales was very hesitant to respond to the principal, because he was just thinking that what the principal has told, he needs to imply that. But we were just of the opinion, principal might not be thinking or might not be willing to communicate with the line, or might not be willing to communicate through the line to the shipper, because they thought that the shipper might understand, might not understand. Once all these details were flashed by the shipping line to the principal, within 2 minutes, the sales guy made a call that this problem is resolved and the principal have approved the consignment. So all the 12 lots, they are going to load it. So what exactly I mean to say that small things make much meaning, and accordingly the things become easier or the things become very difficult. Just when we are planning a storage and securing of outgoing cargo, the purpose is equal distribution of weight, lashing and chocking, stability check and calculation. We can How we can do this, how we can move our cargo safely? There are lots of calculations, but it is very easy for us. We can ensure by proper disclosure to the carrier at the time of booking and negotiations. What is the dimension and what is the weight, how many packages and how many packages we are going to plan in the container. And after the stuffing and prior to the movement into the port, we have to take the actual storage made, the photos thereof, and we have to take the surveyor's report for any deviation found in the cargo. With respect to one we had given to the shipping line at the time of planning the shipment or booking the shipment, we have to make this disclosure to the shipping line so that the rectifications or acceptance of the shipping line can be made by it then and there itself prior we move the cargo into the port. Because every shipping line, they have their different policies regarding the acceptance of the weight. Even if the container may allow a weight of say 30 ton, say 40 ton, the shipping line may have the practice to allow only up to 30 ton of the cargo. At times terminals have got also their limitations. So it is always useful for us that we should give the proper details of the cargo to the shipping line, and in case of any deviation found or any adverse remark made by the surveyor, we have to take it very seriously. We have to resolve it in consultation with the shipping line. We have to do the needful rectifications by proper chocking, lashing and securing of the cargo so that the container is balanced, it is not overweight, cargo is secured, and it can be loaded onto the ship. Again, for the ODC cargo, it is very important. Most of the shipping lines are accepting the cargo on the ship hook. So till the cargo is offered to the ship, we should have our chocking and lashing team there ready so that any requirement made by the last moment till the master of the ship come and examines the cargo, we should be in a position to amend that, rectify that up to the satisfaction, so that cargo is loaded smoothly. Can we come down, please? Scroll down. So this is the, we have discussed ODC. Now we will discuss heavy lift. Heavy lift is a relative term. It is a relative term. What is heavy for one may not be heavy for the other. So, for example, suppose there is a weak person, then 50 kg weight is a heavy weight for him. For a strong man, if 50 kg is not heavy. Again, think of a situation, we have 100 kg of weight. For the strong man, it may be heavy, but for a sumo wrestler, it is not heavy. So what is heavy, what is not heavy? It is a relative term. At any point of time in Mumbai, plus 50 tons, up to 50 tons single weight is not considered heavy weight, because up to 50 tons of single weight, we have enough infrastructure to support our operations. Now, it is very interesting for me to explain that previously all the break bulk carriers, they used to consider 50 ton plus weight as the heavy lift. As of now, where the container carriers have been merging into the segment of break bulk, and they have been successfully loading up to 100 ton of cargo weight on the container carrier. Now the break bulk carriers, they have made the heavy lift definitions 100 ton plus. So it is a relative, it is very much relative. What is heavy for one may not be heavy for other. In conventional ports in our country, plus 20 ton single weight is competent as the heavy is competent for heavy lift surcharge, and we take it as a heavy lift cargo. But like in sea canals, generally plus 250 plus 300 ton cargo qualifies for the heavy lift surcharge. So what is heavy, what is not heavy is a very relative term, and it depends upon it. Infrastructure plays a very important role. Like at the port location, the infrastructure supports for 100 ton, 150 ton, but at the hinterland, the same is not there. So what is heavy lift at the hinterland may not be heavy lift at the port location. Of course, heavy lift is so much relative that just think of a cargo that is 50 ton weight. If we are moving this cargo in Mumbai, it is not a heavy lift. If it is 75 ton cargo, of course it is a heavy lift. But think of a situation when the same cargo we are moving in the hills of Kashmir, 50 ton becomes 50 tons become heavy lift over there, and 75 ton moving on the steeply hills, up hills. It is not just only heavy lift, it becomes a project cargo. Because lots of calculations, besides making the arrangement for the equipments, we need to do lots of calculations, method statements to be prepared, and not the simply ordinarily supplying the equipment to fill the gap of the infrastructure will serve the purpose. Just a minute. Project cargo. Just yeah, please come down. Now let us consider when a heavy lift or ODC or break bulk cargo converts into project logistics or project cargo. Just assume of a situation where anything goes wrong. It is just not incurring loss, but it also incurs huge contingent loss. It is too high to afford. We can think of situations like bridges collapse, human casualty incur, public routes and roads getting stuck for a long time, causing agony. For major projects like oil, gas, power, defense of national importance getting delayed, deferred, and stuck. The nature of loss is irreversible, and potentially this type of loss may badly affect and destroy the health of the economy, both of the company and so also of the project. Project logistics is generally, it is meticulously designed and tailor-made logistic solution, and there is almost no scope in order for any kind of lapses. This is because this is because when we think of project logistics, it is not the ordinary course of logistics. Every project is a challenge, and every project has something different. All two projects are not the same. Every project has something different, and till the end, from the planning to execution to the delivery of the project, every step becomes the challenge. Like I give you one of the examples that it was a project cargo where route survey was made, and once the cargo arrives at the port has got an elevated gate built up in between. So the issue came out how the cargo, at the time of survey there was no gate. When the cargo arrived after 3 months, 6 months, the gate was built up there, so it obstructed the entry of the cargo into the port. Break bulk ship was about to berth, and this became a big headache. At the end moment, something clicked, and the port authorities allowed cargo to be, the boundary wall was such that the gate was such that the boundary wall was such that the crane were available in the vicinity. So through the crane, the cargo was taken from the truck, and then the truck was moved, and again at the opposite side, when truck reached it was loaded onto the ship. Now I will try to explain some of the major projects we have handled, and we will move it forward with respect to the projects. It will be easier for me to explain. We come down. Yeah, please come down, please, to the photos. This is in the photo we find this cargo is over length. It is a 65 feet long column. It was stuck for want of break bulk ship at Mumbai for almost 2 months. 2 times the LC were extended, but because no ships in sight, even the export order was in danger. So the shipper was desperate, and this is an operation that we did in year 2009. So what exactly we did, because break bulk ship was not there, we planned this into containerized ship. In container, this is this was over length cargo, so we plan on the flatbed container. We had a very accurate plan and the methodology, and after that we moved to many shipping lines. Whenever we moved to the shipping line for the rates, all the shipping lines were of the opinion, most of the shipping lines were of the opinion that this is a break bulk cargo. Why we are trying to do break bulk cargo onto the container ship? It was very difficult. Somehow we could convince one of the carriers. Now the next challenge was to accept that, to make the port to accept this cargo for the handling, because at the port this cargo is 65 feet long, and the distance between the gantry crane legs is 59 feet. So it was too difficult to move this cargo through the gantry legs in order that it is loaded on board the ship. So for that, we have just made one special sling operations we had prepared, and the purpose of the sling was to along the length, instead of along the width, along the length, it can enter and cross the gantry crane legs, and again it can be loaded on board the ship. This was a very simple operation, but somehow no one was trying to take the break bulk cargo planning on a container ship or containerized. When you approach the port authority, you will be surprised that we got the message from the port authority that such cargo which is break bulk, which is conventional cargo, should be insulated in the range of the port, in the 10-kilometer vicinity of the port, because this may endanger the multi-billion container terminal. Finally, it was difficult for us. Somehow we could convince both the port authorities and also the shipping lines. We could secure the rate, and we could also secure the permission from the port. and this cargo was loaded successfully this was loaded successfully onto the container ship. As of now, when we find many of the shipping lines are taking the pride that they have been able to load breakable cargo on their container ship. We just think of the paradigm shifts with respect of time. It is good that we have come up to a stage. We have developed to a stage in 10 decades where many of us are trying whatever best can be done in order for the safe passage of cargo at the same time to save as much as possible. So this is breakable cargo on flatbed container, and this becomes a project. There is what is the difference between a project and a heavy lift is that for heavy lift, we have the lack of infrastructure. So we can just bring in the instruments or equipments and that will serve the purpose. Project is very meticulously planned. It has got a method statement. We have certain calculations while when we are lifting the container and there is tilting in the container, whether it should not come out, the choking and lashing calculations should be proper. These are the considerations which makes like the port here, the port gantry crane legs obstructing the cargo. So we have to take the permission, something that is offbeat. For that, some permissions are required, some special planning is required prior to moving the, prior to execution of the cargo, many things to be put in order, and then we make it, so it makes the cargo as the project. That is the difference between the project cargo and ODC and heavy lift. Many of the occasions, ODC and heavy lift, they become project cargo because of this particular nature of the cargo that requires meticulous planning. Now we come to one more case, case. Yeah. This is another cargo. This has one of the cargo you will find is of 375 ton. The diameter is 13.13 ton, some 45 to 50 feet is the height and some 10 meter is the dia. 375 ton, and this is a massive. At one point of time, I was having an orientation training. I was just giving orientation training at one of the engineering giants. During the lunch break, one of their key managers approached and he discussed that their company is going to lose some 10 to 12 crore of rupees because the cargo is arriving. The project has got deferred and it will be required at the overseas after 6 months. By the time they need to store this cargo in the conventional method, the nature of cargo is such that they need to store it on a barge, on a suitable barge. So if they store the cargo for 6 months on a barge, it will cost them around 10 to 12 crore of rupees. That is going to be a huge loss in the project. So like any other person, I also told him that why do not you plan storage instead of conventional method onto the barge? You plan it at Mumbai port. So issue was that the nature of cargo, the dimension of cargo and the weight was such that no crane was available in the vicinity throughout the western sector, western range of to handle this particular cargo. So I advised them like what we have done on many occasions, that we take the cargo from the ship hook, we do the offloading, we do the loading onto the modular hydraulic trailer and do the offloading by this is a very simple procedure that all of us use. What made difficult that we told them that let us plan that we bring the barge along the port side and we do the floating roll loadout operation. Floating roll loadout operation is like when the barge is brought along the jetty and there is the alignment in the height of the barge and the jetty, proper ramp is made and cargo laden in the transport vehicle is loaded out onto the barge, and then the same stool property, hydraulic property of the modular trailer is used and the cargo is stored there and truck is taken out. So it is what has been, in the trade, this practice has been for long, but what made this in year 2009-10, when we planned this shipment, we came to know from when we went for survey at the port, floating ro-ro loadout operation was never happened that time. So when we planned this shipment in this fashion, so the loan restrictions or hesitant was finally from the client that in case of any accident, what will be true? Because salvage operation may cost far, far more than what the savings they are making. If we are doing this practice by taking the cargo from the ship hook and loading it on the floating ro-ro loadout method, and then securing the cargo, ship fastening and all. So it saves, of course, a huge amount of money, some 90% of the money, if in comparison to if we are bringing, if we are, if we are directly storing that cargo onto the barge. So the main issue was that in case anything goes wrong, then the salvage operation would cost in manifold, and the contingent cost will be so high that the whole of the project will get deferred. Then we had a long discussion that if the engineering is there, calculations are there, everything is there, we can reinforce and we can take the permissions, everything is all right, why should not we go about it? So because the company was an engineering company, and they were based on the engineering calculations and all, and after that the same matter was put up with the marine warranty surveyor, and we could secure the approval of the marine warranty surveyor, and this project went off peacefully. So this is the ODC cargo. This heavy lift and ODC cargo becomes project, and projects only because of the nature of cargo is such that the support system, the infrastructure does not support, and we need to make some special arrangement, and such arrangements are to be converted into method statements, which should convert. The method statement is basically the charter of all the handling and operations. So what does the method statement generally consist of? It consists of the structural analysis and suitability of all beams, bars, stools, equipment planned for certification of gears, lashing materials, test certificates of all kinds of equipments planned for use, structural calculations, route survey from the start to the point of delivery. At times in project logistics, we have to do the reinforcement of the bridges, alternate routes, removal of obstructions like flyovers, electric poles, wires, holding of vehicle movements for a while, necessary approvals and permissions from the authority thereof. At the same time, stability calculations are there while goods are in transit on the modular trailer, or stability calculations when it is moving by the barge. Sea fastenings, which has to take into consideration the rolling, pitching forces besides all other forces that is applicable for road transportation. It consists. So basically, what I want to say that the project logistics is different, because in project logistics we cannot incur any chance. It has to be planned meticulously. Anything going wrong will cost a lot, and what is the process so that it should be error free is to prepare a method statement which should consist all the details minutely. It should be planned, the equipments to be tested, certified and authenticated, and it has to be ensured that only those equipments which has been duly mentioned in the method statement needs to be deployed. For change, if any of the equipments in that case, we have to disclose it. We have again to do the calculations, certifications, and include it into the method statement prior to take that for execution. So as I told in the very beginning, that ODC, heavy lift, and project cargo, these are three different terminology. Each word has got a different meaning. But in our general practice, we use all these three terms all together as one term. This is because the nature of cargo or nature of operation is such that, especially the nature of cargo may be such that the same cargo which qualifies for ODC also qualifies for heavy lift, and so also for the project logistics. With this, I conclude this orientation on ODC, heavy lift, and project cargo. So we can now proceed for the question and answer questionnaire, please.
Thank you, Animesh. It was a very interesting and an educative session. It was a lot of new things we get to learn and understand the technicalities. Being the orientation program, I can understand this was the first stage of the introduction to the industry. A lot of people knowing to understand the basics, and maybe later on when we hold another session after a month or so, which will go into more technicalities of there are various calculations involved. Maybe that time it will take some time, because I think you will be more comfortable doing the session live, wherein you need a board where you can actually draw a few things and explain on how the calculations are done. I think that will be very interesting to know, and that will be more technical. I think that will be a bit difficult to do it on a PowerPoint presentation, I feel. What do you think about it? What do you say? This is my
definitely. Yeah, definitely. When we are going for the classroom training, we have the better support. Like we can work out on our computers. We can find out what is reflected in the computer at the screen, at the board. We can use the board and in order to write and explain. Then we have the live interaction where anything that is there, the query comes from, we can sort of resolve immediately. So classroom has got a advantage with respect to webinar, but this is the first webinar for me, so it is good that I thought that I should have done practice for that, but I thought that like I am so fluent in the classrooms, I should be like that, but it is always there is a better chance. Thank you.
What you say is right. Yeah, maybe you've always been used to doing classroom sessions, so this was something different for you. Can understand that. Coming to the basic question of when you did show some slides and about the different types of cargos being loaded. Now, many a times, we give these inquiries to various lines for loading on flat rack containers, and they ask for, as you said, they ask for photographs, they ask for drawings, they ask for some lifting points, and but it takes a pretty long time for them to really take a decision or give us a decision. And I think I'm talking on behalf of everyone, all the people, participants who are here. It has always been observed that it takes 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, but they are not able to come back to us whether they will be able to accept this cargo or load this cargo on their vessel or on their container, which has always been a problem faced by, I think, I'm sure everyone will agree with me on this. What do you think on this?
When we are planning ODC consignment in a special container, the liner has also got limitations. For us, we just give the dimensions and photos. For them, they have to plan that the stowage should be proper, the weight distribution should be proper. They have certain guidelines of their own in the interest of safety of the cargo. Like what is the weight distribution, what is the torque, whether the base of the cargo is such that, and also the center of gravity of the cargo is such that during the transportation the stability is maintained, what kind of securing or some special securing is required. These are the considerations because the cargo owner, they are concerned with the transportation of the cargo. We as the freight forwarder, we just want that the cargo should be delivered safely, but greater stake in the risk factor is of the shipping line because it is them who are accepting the cargo on board their ship. In case suppose, let us think of a case where cargo has arrived at the port, it is being offered, it is to be offered to the hook, ship hook, and that time the master of the ship rejects the cargo. What happens? So under these situations, we find that let the shipping lines, if they are taking time, let them have their own time. And Odyssey and project, we have to design in such a way that safety is prime, and for that, if time is taken, we should allow them to take the time. At the same time, if one shipping line is taking the time, we have 3, 4, 5 shipping lines, they are accepting such cargo. So I will advise that whenever we are, especially in case of ODC consignment, where we have the pressure from the shippers also to execute this as soon as possible. Let shipper do their own work. We have to do our own work, approaching to, instead of 1, 2, or 3 reliable shipping lines, which we know that they are fast in making the calculations and offering the rates and arrangements. So I think that it is very genuine on part of shipping lines if they are taking time. It is for us to work hard to make them to work out faster in the cases, and safety is always prime, not only in their interest, but our interest as well.
Right, fantastic, thank you. We have one question, which is again a general question, which very few people have answers to them, but the shipping lines always, when a flat rack container is loaded, the odd dimension cargo is loaded, they work on a calculation of space loss, and on that basis, they arrive at the freight what they are supposed to charge you. Now they say that, okay, there has been a slot loss. Okay, we are losing 6 slots, we are losing 8 slots or whatever. So accordingly, the freight is calculated. So can you just throw some light on the slot loss thing? What is normally, because that's just a terminology which everyone hears, but no one is able to practically understand.
I just try to explain it with a particular case. One of my friends got stuck with the shipping line. When he stuffed the cargo, the width of the cargo was around 7 feet, 9 or 10 inches, say 8 feet. It was cut to cut with the width of the container. He stuffed that cargo in a flat rack container, cut to cut being the width. The cargo got stuck at the transshipment port in Dubai.
Okay.
And the nightmare started. Because the shipping line, which has accepted at the freight of say $5,000, they told him that we are dropping the cargo in Dubai at the shipper's cost and risk. If he wants the cargo to move forward, he has to pay $10,000. So for a freight forwarder, a top up of $5,000, you can just think of. After negotiations, they dropped down 20-30%. So finally, they planned that they can do it at 7,500. Again, he was in problem because the shipper was not going to, take that particular cost factor. Somehow, through some contacts or whatever it is, he contacted me. So I gave him two advice. Number one, you work out the cargo there, do the proper securing. What you say that the cargo has it, there is a slide of just 1 inch. You take it 1 inch, but it is a 40-foot container, and that is loaded and stacked. So one stack is completely wasted when it is planned on the ship deck.
Correct.
So that is what the cargo, if it becomes over width, say it by 1 feet or by 6 feet, it has got the same effect on the pricing. If it is 1 inch, if it is over width by 1 inch or by 5 feet or by 6 feet, it has got the same impact because it is going to kill the space next. If it is ODC both ends, in particular, I am talking about the over width cargo.
Correct.
If it is over width, both end, then we have a 40-foot container, one at the right hand side, one at the left hand side. So if it is a 40 foot, so 2 tube is the volume of the container, then 2 and 2. So it is going to kill 6 tube. That is what we say slot loss.
Lot loss.
Now think of a cargo that is light cargo. On the ship, you will find that these containers are stacked at different levels at different positions. If the cargo is light cargo, the shipping line plan it at the top, may plan it at the top. So that has got a cost factor. If it is an ODC cargo in a flat rack, we know that above that we cannot load any other cargo. Suppose if the cargo is of 25 ton, what happens? They need to plan it either on the second or on the third. So it means if they have the 5 stackings and they are doing on stack 2, so 3 up, and it is over width, so it makes 9 slot loss, and that determines the price or value of the cargo. So how much they. At times we have been very successful in getting good rates from the shipping lines. We request them that, my dear friend, why don't you plan extreme left or extreme right, so that we can save some money out of one side slot loss. So these are the simple, calculations. Again, the carriers, they have their own limitations, their own restrictions. They have not to think of your cargo, my cargo, his cargo. They have to think of the stability of the ship and where exactly they are going to store the cargo.
Correct.
Same cargo, how the shipping line is planning the stowage on board the ship, that makes the sense, and accordingly they offer the price. I think I have been able to explain this part.
Oh yeah, very quite. I think that has really given some clarity basically. Okay, in continuation to that question, again, is on a flat rack container, it can take maximum 40 feet length is fine, there's a restriction. But any idea on what are the limitations or maximum width they carry or maximum height normally a flat rack container the shipping lines allow or they carry? Is there any standard set bench norm or something like that?
See, what happens, the container, if it is a flat rack container, we have a base. The base is the length and the width. There is the platform. We have to find out the nature of cargo. As we know, for the cargo to be stable, the base should be as wide as, for the cargo to be stable, the base should be wide. At the same time, the center of gravity of the cargo should be as low as possible. So these are two important factors which decides the stability of the cargo during the road transportation in the last mile connection and also transportation. their focus is on the stability of the cargo during the transportation, because on board, besides the acceleration, there is also rolling and pitching forces, which are very high forces that is on the cargo being applied on board the ship. So it is a very simple science that what should be the length and width of the cargo, what should be the height of the cargo, so that the center of gravity coming from that particular cargo, the center of gravity, I mean this force that is the gravitational force or center of passing through the force passing from the center of gravity of the cargo should pass through the platform. In that case, the cargo is said to be stable. So they find out through the calculations whether the cargo is stable or not, and accordingly, what happens? Shipping is a very it is a regular kind of thing. So in due course of time, they set certain parameters.
Correct.
How much loadability they allow per length, what is the maximum width of the cargo they can accept, what is the maximum length of the cargo they can accept. In a special cases, if we request them that you try to make out a trailer-made solution for our consignment, they are also accepting that. Do you know, as I told you in during the orientation,
Correct.
that when we planned in 2009, 65 feet long cargo, it was a Herculean task. It was a nightmare. Shipping lines were asking me, Animesh, you don't have the work. Why are you putting your head trying to take a breakable cargo on a container ship? Shipping line, then port is telling that I will insulate this cargo. I'm talking with you because you have come here to discuss, but please don't discuss such nonsense. This is the paradigm at that point of time. And now the shipping lines, they are at the container terminal, they are accepting cargo, 75 ton, 80 ton, breakable cargo. And this breakable cargo, they are not containerizing this cargo. They are just taking, they are making the base of the containers and taking directly there and doing onboard lashing. So lots of changes are happening. In case shipping line is telling that this is their standard practices, it's all right. We still have the option that for our case is specific for the specific cargo you try to accommodate. And in case they find, they have the means and modes to find out whether the cargo will remain stable, loadability will be maintained. They have the means and modes to define it. And accordingly, they find it suitable, then they will accept it. So of course, they have the hard and fast rule. That hard and fast rules have been developed with the experience and their practices for so long, but
Correct.
They have the tailor-made solutions also.
Correct. Thank you. Okay. One general question again is, normally, what are the things which people should look out for, which, a lot of silly mistakes happen due to which they end up into a lot of trouble. So what are the general, we always say do's, but what are the general, something like, don'ts, or just follow these don'ts to be safe, that you don't land into trouble when you're handling any such type of cargo, especially for beginners, a lot of startup companies. Because what happens is that generally we have seen that when we say Breakball project, everyone is very excited because there's a general thought process कि अरे project cargo है तो इसमें बहुत पैसा है, Breakball cargo तो इसमें बहुत पैसा है. That's a general thought process, but and they end up landing into some type of trouble which they have never ever thought about it. So any general do's so we know, don'ts, or points which can be always kept in mind, basics.
The very first is, and the most prime, don't keep any loose end. If we have planned a project cargo, break bulk, or ODC, never keep any loose end. Like I am telling you one example. There was a consignment that was 300-ton weight, and that was to be delivered. So 300-ton single weight is a huge, it is a heavy lift, and that requires lots of planning and lots of planning and lots of in order to execute properly.
Yes.
So most of the players, project logistics players, they plan that they will take the cargo from the ship hook and onto the bars, bring it alongside the port, and then do the load out and deliver it. One forwarder, he made a very smart move. In the same vicinity where the delivery was to be made, there was a private port. It was basically a shipyard, and they had gantry crane of 1200-ton capacity. He made arrangement with the manager of the shipyard that I will be bringing my bars here and I will use your gantry crane. Others offer where, it was say 5 crore of rupees. He could get this contract at 2.5 crore of rupees. Huge difference, because he made a very smart move. But this move turned out to be a nightmare, into a huge loss. Planning was perfect, very innovative. What mistake was made? He went to the shipyard allowed. But generally shipyards are, what we say, we have this, what we say, like Mumbai port, this is a running port. But what we say, commercial port. Shipyards are non-commercial. And most of the shipyards are export-oriented units. So he has to take permission from the customs and from the maritime board. That he could not secure. By the time the ship arrived, he could not secure that. So he put the cargo onto the barge. The barge was detained for as many as 1 month. The cargo was brought back to Mumbai port. And at the Mumbai port anchorage, it was again somehow reworked out. You can just think of the kind of loss the project logistics company would have incurred. What made the loss? He kept the loose ends. Had he approached the customs and the maritime board and taken the approval, he would have really minted money. But it turned out to be in a huge loss. Very first and the very last is never keep loose end. If I have the permission with the shipping line for a cargo for 25 ton, once the cargo arrives from the factory, we find it is not 25 ton, it is 30 ton. We need to disclose it to the shipping line. We have not to take the chance. Why? Because you will find there are many shipping lines. They accept maximum 30 ton. Some of the shipping lines, they accept 40 ton. Some of the shipping lines, their principal allows 35 ton. Whose principal is going to reject? We never know. So it is always in our own interest, in the interest of the forwarders, to be very clear, never conceal any fact with the shipping line. We do not control the cargo. The cargo which is given, the diagram of which once arrives in actual may be different. So all these things need to be discussed and proper solution to be taken prior making the move. Another, I think, 2 more things we must take care of. It is very important, the stability of the cargo and also the stability of the container. How to stuff the cargo. Every container has got the geometrical center of that container is also the center of gravity of the base. So central line is going, we have to see that the cargo is stuffed in such a way that the torque is either end, it should be but it should be evenly. It should be such that from the center, the torque should be even, equal, either side. So these are simple things to bifurcate. The most important is what I discussed. Weight distribution on the platform. That is one of the most important thing. This is very easy. If you allow, I give you one example. One of the consignments, it was 38 ton cargo that was planned on a flat rack container that has the loadability capacity of 42 ton. Proper base was there. It was the steel made base. Still, the surveyor put the objection that you have to, because the cargo is heavyweight, so you put a log along the length, throughout the length of the container, and then we will allow. And it was proper steel frame base made, which was properly distributing the weight, merely having the rubber, so that skidding does not take place. Slippers or rubbers would have done the great job for this container. Even putting the log increases the height, adds to the instability. So we discussed it. At times, surveyors are not ready to discuss. So in that case, if we are very confident, then we have the option, we can opt for another surveyor, and we can move the cargo. Many things are in between. For a novice, for a new player, for that we are conducting this class. This is an orientation. For a new player who has not done ODC heavy lift brake bulb, they want to come into this particular trade. It is very simple. It is very simple. All that you should have the maximum disclosure procedure. Whatever input informations you are getting from your client, you share with the shipping line, and whatever input informations we are getting from the shipping line, you share it. Never try to force. Your client may force it, you do it, nothing will happen. But something happens, your client will put your hands off. So just be in compliance and accordingly move.
Thank you so much, Animesh. It was, I think, you've covered most of the questions, and it was a very, very interesting session. We will take this forward. Maybe very soon we will, when things open up, we would definitely conduct a proper classroom session for our members, which will be more in detail, more in technical, where there will be a lot of more technical questions coming up. At that time, I think we can talk about the real handled cargo being loaded on the break bulk vessels and how those things work. Maybe that will be the next step. So I thank you so much. And now I'll request Prashant to do a word of thanks.
Okay, my pleasure.
My colleague,
Thank you, Animesh ji. Thank you, Vasan, for moderating it. Thank you, all the participants, for joining. It was a very enlightening session, and we'll keep on doing such sessions as MTOI Western Region chapter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Animesh. Everyone have a nice weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, and thanks a lot to MTOI for arranging such sessions. Of course, it has been better. We have been adopted for the classroom, sessions. This has been new, but next time I will think that I will prepare and make some practice so that what we want to convey, we convey it properly.
Definitely, Animesh. Definitely. Thank you so much again. Thank you, everyone. See you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.